And we are live. So, welcome to the ongoing summer of sci-fi fantasy. Another episode of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. With me tonight, I've got the Ryan Daly stopping in to talk a little sci-fi fantasy tonight. So, what's happening, man?
Nothing. Ready to talk about this movie. Been doing a little bit of research and stuff, so yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, I mean, I was thinking, as I was watching it, because I just watched it before we went on. That seems to be my
Mhm.
habit nowadays. I don't know what's going on. I'm procrastinating, or I get caught up doing other things, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to screen the movie.
Yeah.
And so I thought about a little Joseph Campbell, who
Okay.
wrote the classic "The Hero with a
Yeah.
Thousand Faces."
The often used basis for a lot of this
The
stuff. Yeah.
hero's journey.
Yep.
And the hero's journey is a very familiar arc.
Oh yeah.
You have the guy there at the top. He gets the call to, or girl, call to adventure. There's usually some supernatural aid. You see towards the top, there's a line cutting through the circle there because it is a circular journey, because you end up back at the beginning,
Yeah.
where you cross that threshold between what's known, venturing finally past that line into unknown territory.
Yeah.
And once you cross that line into the unfamiliar, that's where the change in the protagonist starts to begin. There's usually a mentor or a helper. There's going to be challenges, maybe some temptations along the way, never doing it alone. You see it bottoms out there in what's called the abyss. There could be death, rebirth, perhaps the death of the helper or, the mentor. And the transformation continues up through where the protagonist finally achieves victory over the difficulties and challenges in the story.
Yeah.
And then eventually returns home, forever changed by the experience. But it is a circular journey where the hero makes it back, whether it be male or female, and that
And
is such. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and this is a very, I mean, this is pretty much every story follows this, pattern. And I mean, the most obvious to all of us is Star Wars is A New Hope.
Yes.
George Lucas was a huge fan of Joseph Campbell and used that whole thing. I mean, that's the whole movie right there.
Yeah.
Luke's journey, through the whole
Luke's
thing.
journey, finally making it off Tatooine.
Yep.
He's always
Finding
dreamed of
Obi-Wan.
going. Yeah, but his uncle wants him to stay and help with the farm. He needs help there, so he never gets to go. Suddenly his family is killed, and he's released of those obligations.
Yeah.
And he can become who he is supposed to be. We have it is the trope in modern film.
It goes back to mythology.
Well, let me list out some examples here. I mean, I was thinking, and more, because it can be fun. It doesn't have to be serious.
Oh yeah.
You could look at The Lion King.
Yes,
The Lion King's a perfect example of the hero's journey with Simba.
Which this movie is very much. The Lion King got the idea from the story of Amleth. When we get into that, yeah.
You've got, and this is the most extreme version of it, because the idea is that, in shorter terms, you're going to go in that cave into the unknown.
Yeah.
You're going to slay that dragon, and you're going to come back home, and you will have achieved your destiny. Who it is, your ultimate self.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. You're going to step into your own shoes and become who you're supposed to be. The ultimate version in today's cinema is Iron Man.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
goes from being this narcissistic billionaire who just, bangs women left and right. His
Yeah.
life is sort of, it doesn't really have that much meaning. He goes all the way to becoming Iron Man by the end of the first movie. And then by his death in Endgame, I mean, he's actually, become like the Earth's mightiest or most loyal defender, giving up his life to save humanity. I mean, he
Yeah.
actually builds a time machine.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how far they've gone now in film to,
Hmm.
have these people come out on top.
Yeah.
You've got Spider-Man,
Hmm.
another example. Just the neighborhood kid who
That's a
has
really
this.
good example. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he has this thing sort of thrust upon him,
Hmm.
and he does not acknowledge it at first, to the detriment of the life of his uncle, where he learns the responsibility. This great power comes great responsibility. The common trope now. You
Hmm.
hear, you've got the Matrix. Neo.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Neo. He's just some hacker who's just working in a cubicle, and he spends all his night in front of the computer at home, doing weird shit, and then he's called upon by Morpheus to do more, to step into this role and become the one. Um,
Hmm.
you've got Harry Potter. You okay?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. You've got Harry Potter living under his aunt and uncle's stairs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
is, goes, is plucked out by Hagrid and, Dumbledore, and, taken to Hogwarts, and, becomes the chosen one, and,
Hmm.
ends up saving everybody,
Yeah.
over the course of like 8 years, 7 or 8 years. Of course, there's Lord of the Rings, The
Yep.
Hobbit, any of Tolkien's works, all
Hmm.
of those heroes coming out of the Shire, living these reclusive sort of lives. They don't want to be bothered with anybody until
Hmm.
they're almost, drafted, in a military
Yeah.
sense. You're coming with us.
It also goes back. I mean, well, obviously, King Arthur falls into this category. You could also, if we want to speak in religious terms, it's also the story of Jesus. Um, in a sense, he comes from a that kind of humble background and stuff like
Well,
that.
okay. Let me get to that, because I
Yeah.
want to talk about the flip side of the coin. This is one
Okay.
side of the coin here.
Okay. Yeah.
We've also got a simple movie like The Goonies.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They're just a bunch of goofy kids who,
Hmm.
get thrust into this adventure, and
Yeah.
these nerds, and they're, all kinds of comic challenges, and a little bit of danger here and there, but it's so lighthearted that you never really become scared.
Yeah.
Returning home, the conquering hero, so on and so forth. And of course, you've got one of the best examples that I've ever seen in modern film, the Karate Kid.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
Karate Kid,
Yeah.
he's got the mentor. It's not
Mhm,
supernatural, but he's got he's just this kid who's, come
mhm.
to from New Jersey to, LA, and he doesn't understand the rules,
Yeah.
and, he's getting beat up by this guy because he likes Elizabeth Shue, because, hey, it's Elizabeth Shue. And, he needs help. And so he gets this mentor, and, goes on to, win the karate tournament, and, sort of, at least until we got to Cobra Kai, you're under the impression that, he sort of made his peace with Johnny Lawrence, and
Yeah,
the Cobra Kai, so on and so forth. But
yeah.
then you've got the flip side of the coin, because in all of those films that we just listed, everyone is in charge of their own fate. They're in charge
Mhm.
of their
Yeah.
own destiny.
Yes. Yeah.
They're making the decisions. They're going into that cave. They're going to slay that dragon, so on and so forth. But then
Yeah.
you've got, and there aren't that many of these types of films nowadays,
Mhm.
films where your fate is ruled and
Yeah.
everything is predetermined.
Yeah.
And like we talked about this a little bit around Christmas time, when we talked about It's a Wonderful Life.
Mhm.
Jimmy Stewart's character, he really isn't in control of his own destiny.
No, he's not.
Every time he's about to step off and do the thing that he wants to do,
Yeah.
life happens to him. His
Yeah.
father has a stroke. the stock market crash, all
Hmm.
these different things. There aren't a lot of films today that are made that way.
No, they're
One of
not.
the more, well, probably the biggest example I can think of is The Godfather,
Okay. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Michael has no interest in becoming
Yeah.
like, yeah, he wants
He
to be
tries
as
so hard to
far.
avoid it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think The Godfather. Well, I think clearly The Godfather is ultimately a tragedy.
Yeah. It is. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a tragedy in that it costs him everything. Costs him his wife. It costs him his child. It costs him
Hmm.
his family.
Yeah.
Just to run the mob.
And then, in the second one, you see how even further down he goes,
Yeah,
you
he
know?
kills his
It,
own brother.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then it sinks even lower when they bring George Hamilton into the third movie.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, what's lower than that? Bringing George Hamilton
like,
into a
I
fucking
can't
Godfather.
believe
It's
that.
George
The,
Hamilton. You can't
the first time I saw that, I'm like, what's George Hamilton doing in this?
in
Like,
a
what?
Godfather movie. It's a Godfather movie.
Well, they apparently brought him in because Duvall didn't want to do it because Duvall asked for too much money and Coppola said, "Screw you, I'm not paying you that much." And so Duvall walked. So they just wrote off Tom Hagen's character as
You
having
can't write
died.
off Tom Hagen.
Well, that's
You
why they
can't.
wrote
You
off
can't write off Robert Duvall.
that's why they wrote off Clemenza in the second. That's why Clemenza's not in the second movie because Richard Castellano wanted more money and they weren't going
I
to
would.
pay him.
I would
So they said,
argue
"We'll have
that.
Clemenza die," and
Well, Clemenza wasn't that big of a deal. Tom
I
Hardy
know,
was the
yeah,
consigliere. I mean, in the
I
second movie,
know,
he actually becomes the Don. While Michael is away dealing with
yeah, I know,
Hyman Roth. He's in Las Vegas dealing with
yeah.
all
He's
that
like a
shit.
substitute Don, yeah,
Yeah,
which is not what's supposed to happen because Hagen is Irish. He's not even Italian,
right.
you
But
know.
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
nobody cares. It's like that line in The
Hmm.
Sopranos when they find out that James Caan's not Italian. They're like,
Yeah,
nobody cares. He's so good.
yeah, yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
gives a shit. He's James
yeah,
Caan.
yeah.
So, I mean, you've got that. There aren't that many other movies. I mean, maybe you can go out on a fringe, something like 12 Monkeys,
Eh.
something. But I mean, these ideas that you're ruled by fate are
And of course, The Last Temptation of Christ. Um, anything the
those. Yeah,
religious
now
stuff.
that's a movie. Yeah, where clearly you are ruled. I mean, you have no say in. But I mean, then there's also the argument where. Well, I mean, it's like Bill said that one time. The idea goes back to the Greeks.
Yeah,
That you have a destiny and you have a fate, and if you
yeah,
struggle against it, you're going to suffer.
yeah, and you can't change it, and yeah, that's just the way it goes. Yeah,
This
it's
movie falls in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, man.
This movie falls into that second category.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any control over your fate, and what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about is Robert Eggers' The Northman. So, if you're ready to go, shall we get
Yep, let's
started?
do it.
Boogie woogie. So, The Northman is basically the story that Hamlet is premised on.
Yeah, it
It's a
comes from a
Danish
yeah.
Viking.
I was reading about it. It's an old story that was passed down orally.
Yeah,
It
as
was an
most
oral
stories were back
tradition.
then.
Yeah, Amleth was the character's name. It's not I don't think it was based on any real person. It was just a story, kind of a thing. And there were many variations of it in Shakespeare's time when he came up with Hamlet. The version he got it from was a version called the Hamlet, which is based on the tale of Amleth. It's like one of those things where people add stuff to it every time they tell it. Like with
It's
the
an embellishment.
Odyssey. The Odyssey was a oral story. It was a story that was told or sung, and throughout the years, after Homer did it, then other people would embellish and add on it, like a ballad, like Robin Hood and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And basically, it tells the story of Prince Amleth,
hmm,
who is a Viking prince, whose father is a regional lord,
yeah,
kind of a king, a regional king, a small,
yeah,
because I mean, there are a lot of feuding factions,
yeah,
and territories to be divided in historical Viking history.
hmm.
Whose father, played by Ethan Hawke,
I forgot he was
is
in that.
yeah, he's Ethan Hawke,
Yeah,
and is essentially, I mean, just like Hamlet, he is murdered by his half brother.
yeah, yeah,
Murdered by his half brother. The son eventually escapes and vows vengeance,
hmm,
to avenge his father, to rescue his mother, who he sees being carried away by his uncle, and to restore himself upon the throne of what he thinks is his right, his birthright.
yeah,
His father's a king. He's a prince. My father has been murdered. I should be the king.
yeah,
I'm going to set this right.
hmm.
But it doesn't really work out that way,
No,
because the years go by and he's become like some sort of berserker, in these raiding parties for years, until he finds out. And there's actually quite a beautiful shot of this. That one rating shot. I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if you screen. I screened this right before, and I don't know if you did. The
mm,
rating scene is one continuous shot.
yeah, yeah. The steady cam,
One,
yeah,
yeah, it's just steady cam from him throwing that spear to
yeah,
climbing the
yeah,
fence to and then the other raiding parties and the people are fighting and dying, and
hmm,
it's a beautifully shot film.
hmm.
Beautifully shot film.
It's.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's very. It's they Eggers and the other people involved in the movie definitely did their homework,
Yeah,
with the accuracy, and the historicity of it. It's probably the most accurate, like, Viking era movie I've ever seen. They get
yeah.
it right down to the clothes and the buildings and everything else is really awesome.
Yeah, and Amleth now as an adult is played by
Yeah.
Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Who is, I mean, I think he put on like 30 pounds of muscle for this
Yeah.
role. I
Yeah.
mean, he really plays like a fucking Viking
I
berserker.
always
And he's
I
like
can
six
I
foot
always
two anyway.
Yeah, I always get my Skarsgårds confused. I can never tell which one is Alexander or Bill or Peter or any,
Well,
so.
Alexander is the one I know best because I remember him from True Blood. He was
Oh,
one of
okay.
the vampires. And he played a
Oh, he
Viking
was in
vamp.
that?
Yeah, he
Okay.
was like 1,000-year-old vampire who was a Viking. He had
Yeah,
started out
okay.
as a Viking. His name is I forget, but his last name is Northman.
Okay.
I forget what his first name was, but he plays this character, and his last name is Northman.
Yeah.
And then he was in another HBO series called Generation Kill, which is the true story of the Marines as they ride from Saudi Arabia to Baghdad in the 2003 war.
Oh, okay.
And he was the lead in that essentially.
Hmm.
So
Alright.
I've been following him for a while. I think he's a great actor.
Yeah.
He was recently in the last Cronenberg movie, Infinity Pool. He was the star of that.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a kind of a Skarsgård fan. But I mean, basically, what happened? Well, I am a Skarsgård fan more than the other one. He's no Stellan Skarsgård. No one is Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah,
No.
of course not. But I mean, what ends up happening is he finds out that because he's sort of forgotten and run away from who he is,
Yeah, yeah.
and he finds out that his uncle has been deposed. There's no longer any um
Ruler.
well, there's no throne. There's nobody to overthrow anymore. His
Yeah, yeah.
who murdered his brother was overthrown by another king, King Harold
Yeah.
Fine, and now lives as a sheep farmer in Iceland.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's this recurring idea, and Ethan Hawke tells him this. He goes, "Your kingdom is not going to last." He's like, I think he says it's going to slip from your finger like a snake or something like that. The ring that you're stealing of mine. There's this idea that you may have plans, but the gods have other plans.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can give it a shot, but there's no guarantee that it's going to work. You can even go so far as to murder your own brother. But it can slip right through your fingers. I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask is, this movie was not a box office success. Wasn't a huge success. It wasn't really a success at all.
No.
It was and it wasn't.
Was it really?
Well, here's what I found out. Here's because I always go to that the numbers. I always go to the numbers, and I'm looking at here now. The Northman cost between about $70 to $90 million.
Jeez.
Yeah, so Eggers had come off The Witch, which was a financial success. He had come off of The Lighthouse, which was a financial success.
Oh, he did The Lighthouse. Okay.
Yeah, he did The Lighthouse.
Did he do The Green Knight?
No, that was I don't know who did The Green Knight. No,
I thought he did for some reason.
No, I've got The Green Knight right here, but I don't know who directed it off the top of my head. That's
okay.
We're going to cover that later this summer.
Yeah, man. Too. Yeah, that'll be cool.
It looks like $69 million in the theaters, 34 in the box domestic, 34 international. When we get to estimates for Blu-ray and DVD sales, we're looking at about almost another 5 million, 4.6.
So you think it does better on home release?
Yeah. Now here's the catch. Here's what I found out. The Northman was and this is from nofilmschool.com.
Okay.
The Northman was actually a financial success thanks to via video on demand.
Is that what that is? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Despite bombing at the box office, Eggers' $70 million Viking thriller, The Northman, actually turned out to be a financial success. After the success of his first two films, The Witch and The Lighthouse, Eggers graduated from the indie A24 and moved on to Focus Features for his third film, The Northman. Carried an estimated $70 to $90 million budget as it followed the story of a Viking prince on a quest to avenge his murdered father. Unfortunately, the epic did underperform at the box office when it was released in April of this year. That was last year. You and I went to see it.
Yeah.
The expensive historical epic failed to meet the tail end of its production budget, grossing roughly $68 million worldwide. With the immersive narrative and immensely talented cast attached to the project, it was strange to learn that the historical epic failed the way it did, especially with the success of Eggers' previous films. And we should mention that the theaters were still struggling at the time with COVID.
Yeah.
We
were just coming out of it, kind of like.
We were just coming out of it.
Yeah.
People forget that, a year ago or 18 months ago, we were in a completely different world.
I know.
Despite the film's underwhelming performance at the box office, Focus Features production and acquisitions head Kiska Higgs told The Hollywood Reporter that The Northman ended up being a win for us financially. I know in the press, The Northman hadn't been lauded as a success, but it was okay for us in the end. There are additional ways for us to monetize things, at least for us at Universal. It was one we shared with New Regency, and we weren't really front and center on the production of that. Despite being labeled as a bomb, it sounded like Eggers' ambitious project was a financial success based on the comments. At the time when the IP movies tend to perform poorly at the box office, it is clear that there is still an audience that wants these types of art house films that are made for adults.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing is, a lot of movies that become good, that are quote unquote good, a lot of them don't do well. You'd be surprised how many don't really do well in the box office, but then in home release are amazing. Look at The Thing. John Carpenter's Thing bombed at the box office. Now, look how popular and awesome it is because of home video. Like, that's why, like, with the numbers and stuff, that doesn't tell me what's a good movie or not. And it's just,
No,
It
no, it just tells you what money it made. It's a
Oh, I
math. It's
know.
a
I
math.
understand
Yeah,
that.
it's a math
I know,
trick.
but like this is how cult classics are born because a lot of the cool movies, a lot of the good movies, The Outsiders, they don't do well in the theaters.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it's just that they don't do well, but then they kind of have a reassessment on video and on DVD. There was that one that was a huge bomb when it came out. It's actually considered a classic now. That movie Heaven's Gate by Michael Cimino back in the early 80s. It's a Western. Apparently, it's like 4 hours long. But when it came out, it was a complete disaster. It was a mess of a movie. But now, with the release of home video and things like that, it has been basically reassessed, and everybody's like, "Yeah, this is actually a pretty good movie." You
Some
know?
things catch on later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of the problems also is that these streaming services are not very generous with their numbers.
No, they're not.
Box
No.
offices are one thing. That's open. That's almost like
Yeah,
public information. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you can see it
yeah,
in there. Physical media sales,
yeah.
another thing entirely. But these streaming services, they're very, very, secretive
Yeah.
about. I guess unless it's good news, unless it's
Because well,
blatantly
and
good news.
most of the streaming movies that go directly to streaming aren't good quality. It's different from yeah, I don't know. I guess they're cheaper to make. I don't know, but they just don't seem like they're good quality.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, I said the streaming movies just don't seem like they're good quality. I guess they're cheaper to make, and
Oh,
they
you mean
can
the ones that go directly to streaming?
yeah, yeah, directly to
No, yeah,
streaming. Yeah.
they're more. Well, I mean, it depends. It's catch as
Yeah.
catch can because
Yeah.
usually for those types of things, you're probably not getting A-list talent.
Depends,
Like
yeah.
I had Toshi Asaka on here. He's a director. He did independent film. He's made two.
Mhm.
It's been awarded tons of independent film awards from
Yeah.
all over the world. He
Mhm.
will tell you that basically he makes his films. I mean, he could have been being facetious, but he makes samurai films. He
Yeah.
told me he could make. He said $500. He said it cost me
Yeah.
about $500 to make. And I mean, so it depends if you have a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people. I just tried to watch something on Shutter though. There's made directly for Shutter, and it's 13 episodes, and I got through 2 episodes, and I'm like, I can't watch this. This is
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not sure. It's catch as catch can,
Yeah.
despite being labeled. Wait, hold on. While Higgs did not provide any exact figures for the Northman, it needed an estimated 200 million gross to break even in the theaters. And while the
No.
studio takes a higher percentage of home media and
Mm.
PVOD releases, the film had some serious ground to make up before it could be considered a success. Hold on, there
Mm.
was another article in here that I think gave a number, that gave some of the numbers. But I mean,
So what's the big question then about this is that what is
why
it?
didn't it? I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is why didn't it succeed?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I had never heard of it until you were like, "Hey, let's go see The Northman." I didn't see any trailers for it. I didn't see any marketing for it. Um, because again, it's one of those situations where the eggheads at the studios think mainstream audience isn't going to like this, so we're going to
You don't think it had a good
downplay this.
marketing push?
Yeah, we're going to downplay this on purpose because now what also that weekend did it come out up against anything big? Was it
I
a
think it did. Hold on, I got another
yeah,
article here that was a little more specific.
yeah,
When a major studio gave Eggers, the man who may have made Willem Dafoe record his own farts for The Lighthouse, somewhere between 70 and 9. Yeah, you didn't see The Lighthouse. 70 and 90 million to make a blockbuster Viking movie. It's hard to imagine anyone thought it would get as much mainstream appeal as that budget would need to make a profit. And though The Northman is probably Eggers' most accessible film to date, with a star-studded cast and enough brutal action sequences to keep your most avid berserker happy, whether it would prove economically viable in a post-pandemic cinema landscape was another matter entirely.
Mm.
As a theoretically marketable auteur blockbuster, through no fault of its own, the soon became a bit of a bellwether for the health of the cinema industry before its release.
Okay.
Added to that fierce competition from Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, and Nicolas Cage headlined The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which respectively tore chunks out of the blockbuster and added adult counter-programming markets. Things weren't looking so good. In the UK in particular, audiences were still recovering from a difficult COVID-infected winter, with cinema attendance struggling to climb back up for anything smaller than the latest Spider-Man film. And the New York subway poster fiasco, where posters cropped up across the Big Apple without the film's name on them.
What? So they just had a picture of him, basically?
I guess they had a picture of him, and I remember that Eggers was furious. He was furious because he felt that they tried to tank his movie because this was portrayed as alt-right.
Yeah. Really?
This was an alt-right movie.
How?
I could Google it up.
How?
All-white cast, Viking story. This was portrayed as an alt-right.
They know were they aware that they're trying to be historically accurate with this?
Of course they're not aware.
I mean,
of course they're not aware.
But the thing is that I think what I was saying, if it was up against those other movies, some of the studios, they know it's not going to make any money or enough money. So they're just going to put it out there and let it get squished. Prime example, any movie that came out, let's see, I'm going to use this as an example. You don't have to like it or not. One of my favorite throwaway comedies, UHF, Weird Al's movie, came out the same time as Tim Burton's Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, all these movies, because the studios knew. Yeah, the studios knew that Weird Al was going to get buried, and they didn't want his movie to succeed anyway, the competing studios. So here you have Eggers, who's probably, and I don't know much about Eggers, but as far as if I was let's say a hoity-toity executive for whatever studio Fantastic Beasts is involved in, he would be, okay,
I think that's
this
Warner
is Brothers. Warner Brothers, and they're a mess anyway. But, okay, here's this little pissant Eggers going up against our movie. Okay, we're going to crush this guy because, A, most people have never heard of him. B, he's going for a niche market, and people aren't interested in Viking movies. And so the big studio heads are going to purposely swoop in, make sure their movies are on that weekend too, so they can take all the box office. I mean, that's pretty much the long and short of how the business works. I mean,
I always go ahead.
No, but see, here's where that backfires on them. Like I said, these movies thrive in home video, in home release. They thrive through physical media. And that's how they become popular and famous, and probably more so popular than some of the mainstream stuff. I mean, like I said before, that's how cult movies are born, because of the fans. You have that group of fans who really love these movies, and they talk it up and make it what it is now. We wouldn't have Comic-Cons if it wasn't for a lot of these cult films. You know, we wouldn't have Monster Mania Con or any of these things, you know, if it wasn't for cult
funny
films.
That, I think this movie, it eventually made money. It made money through, the tertiary kind of, format, the video on demand. It wasn't in the theaters. It wasn't in, the physical media, but it made it on, people. Nowadays, you can have a 60-inch television in your house. It's not a big deal, and have a professional sound system, and you can sit on your couch and not have to deal with, annoying people in the theaters, people who bring their kids and shit like that. I remember going to see I remember seeing The Others in the theater with Nicole Kidman, and somebody brought a baby to The Other. which is a
I told you
pure
that was.
dialogue atmosphere fucking movie. And somebody brought a baby, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing, man?
I I told you that's what happened when I went to see Attack of the Clones. Somebody brings in a baby, and all the loud battle scenes, and some baby starts up. Some guy actually stood up. He turned around and he stood up and he said, "Take your kid out of the theater." Straight up, just confronted me. Take your kid out there. We didn't hear from the baby after that, but it's like, yeah.
Baby got the message. Here's another thing that happened too. White supremacists. This is from the Daily Mail, so
Oh
this
my
is not like some
gosh.
weird. This is white supremacists hijacked the Northman. Blockbuster starring Nicole Kidman features Nordic lore popular with alt-right groups who hail its all white cast and pure masculinity, end quote. White
Oh my
supremacists have
Lord.
claimed ownership of Hollywood's The Northman. Blockbuster
Wow.
features all-star cast featuring Nicole Kidman and Anya Taylor-Joy. Film has a, quote, all-white cast and pure macho stereotypes of Viking culture. One 4chan user posted, Robert Eggers, he is restoring pride in our people with his great films. The Northman is going to be epic. Hail
Oh my
Odin.
gosh.
So, I mean, yeah,
Wow.
this is, yeah.
I just, okay. And again,
Wait, hold on. Another person commented, Northman is a based, agreeable movie, all white cast, and shows pure raw masculinity. The connection between white supremacy and an interest in Viking culture is not new. A number of alt-right terrorists have referenced the medieval period during their attacks in recent years, including Australian Brenton Tarrant, who killed at least 49 people in a Christchurch mosque in 2019, and Jeremy Christian, who killed 2 women in 2017.
oh my
So,
Lord. This is just, I mean, oh my God. I have no words for this. This is just insanity. I mean,
this is a movie that had a lot of difficulties.
and it doesn't.
What's funny is that, hold on a second. Here's the thing: you can make a movie like Thor, and I love Thor. With
Yeah.
Hemsworth, I love the original. Not so much a fan of the second one. Ragnarok's okay. I saw what it turned into, but at the time I enjoyed it. I loved Thor in Infinity War. I thought that was the best version of Thor, based Thor. Missing an eye, looking for vengeance. He turns into a slaying machine on the Wakanda battlefield. And nobody picks up on that. But this is...
Yeah, nobody picks up on the fact that the first Thor movie, that's what I like about it, is that Kenneth Branagh really went into a lot of the mythology and tried to, explore some of it and stuff within the confines of the Marvel film. But if I'm not mistaken, that was an all-white cast too, wasn't it?
Well, you had Idris Elba.
Oh, Idris Elba, yes. Okay, Heimdall. Yes, we can't forget Idris Elba.
But I mean, that we're in a different time. You're looking at about 2010.
Yeah.
This is 2022. The full.
This just is ridiculous. I mean, it's the part of the world the Vikings were in. I mean, that's it's just I don't know. This is it. Everybody has a reason. Needs to find a reason to complain about something. I mean, this is what it is. I seriously doubt Eggers was setting out to make a movie that caters to these white supremacist idiots and all this kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, in that case, you could make that argument of anyone who ever makes a Viking film. Like
exactly.
I mean, is that what Taika Waititi was doing? No.
Yeah.
Is that what Branagh was doing? No. Is that what the Russos were doing? No. Is that what the people who are making these Viking shows on Netflix or like The Last Kingdom, is that what they're doing? Of course not.
No.
But it's not supposed to make sense.
Yeah, I know.
That's the whole point. The whole point.
I didn't know all this. I didn't know there was all this hullabaloo over this movie.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie that are just different. Like I said, it doesn't have the hero's journey. This idea that your fate is predetermined. It's all throughout this story. I just screened it again. There's the fact that it's just coming out of COVID. And so, you got this theater house hangover. You've got the fact that the marketing was fucked up. They
Yeah.
released posters in New York and quite a
Yeah.
few places with the title of the movie not on the
Yeah.
poster, so people don't know what they're looking at. The
Well,
title is everything. You and I go to the movies. We look at a cool poster. We're like, oh, what the fuck is that? And
well,
then we look at
that
the title.
reminds me of a story actually that Kurt Russell told when they were doing the marketing for Big Trouble in Little China. They would have pictures of Jack Burton with nothing on it and would just say, "Who is he?" And Kurt Russell's like, "Well, who gives a shit, right? Because it didn't do well in the movies. Nobody cares because there's no title on it, you know." So it's common practice.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But at the same time, I mean, the catch of this is, and Big Trouble in Little China is great, but I think this is a great film.
Oh,
I look
it's
at
very
it
well done.
Yeah,
It's
I
very well
look at
done.
it the second time, and it's obviously, like you said, meticulously researched.
Mhm.
And that's something Eggers is known for when he
Yeah.
uses the language from The Witch in the
Mhm.
1600s in the New World. That dialogue was what they were using.
Mhm.
It's beautiful, but it
It
just has a
adds it
lot of
adds
things.
authenticity. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it has a lot of things working against it. I
That's a
mean,
shame. And
he
it's all
accident
outside bull crap, you know?
yeah, he actually went so far as to um, use this scene with the Valkyrie to
Mhm.
give her actually teeth tattoos.
Oh,
Not the
jeez.
teeth. Yeah, you
I
remember when
can't
we talked about? You're like, why did she have braces on? They're
Yeah.
not braces. I researched this. I mean, in Viking culture, certain
Wow.
members of the class actually tattooed their teeth. He
Wow. I
actually
didn't know
went in.
that. Jeez.
Yeah, he went into that.
Also, fun fact, Vikings didn't have horns on their helmets. I don't know where that myth started,
Well, maybe
but
it was
they
that Kurt Russell movie.
maybe.
Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but Vikings don't never had horns on their helmets, but
No,
whatever.
you don't see that in
No.
any modern representation. I mean,
No.
you've got these that show the Vikings with Ragnar Lothbrok. It gets into the
Yeah.
mythology of Ragnar Lothbrok and attacking
Mhm.
this this place that they're calling England and France.
Mhm.
They haven't even made England yet, and now you've
Yeah.
got the new one where the main character is Leif Erikson.
Oh, okay.
These sorts of things, and then you've
Yeah.
got. Have you watched The Last Kingdom?
No.
It's a series. It's like 5
Okay.
seasons, and they just did a Netflix movie. I think they may be
Check it out.
doing more of them, but
Mhm.
it's not. It's not Patricia. I, is it? Is there a Bernard Russell? Is that the author?
Of what?
Like a lot of fiction books.
I don't know. I've heard of
Um,
Bertrand Russell, but I don't know.
hold on. There's an author, Bernard Cornwell.
Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Bernard
Yeah.
Cornwell is an author, and he writes like those sort of. Well, he writes for The Last Kingdom. He wrote a
Okay.
series of books.
Oh,
But what
okay.
he did was he did a genealogy search, and he
Hmm.
found out that he was a distant relation ancestor of this Uhtred the Bold.
Oh, wow. That's
And so
cool.
that motivated him to start to write these like historical fiction novels about Uhtred's adventures, which
Oh,
have been turned.
so this series is based on his books?
They're based on his books, which are based
Okay.
on a real life character,
Yeah.
and it's historical fiction, probably a
Hmm.
little more
That's
romance, and
cool.
you add those sorts of things,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah.
really good. But yeah,
Huh.
in none of those does anybody have horns.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot. This isn't the typical conversation that we have, but there was just a
Yeah.
lot working around this story and working around this movie that just didn't. It had
Yeah, it's
some roadblocks, some
I
impediments.
they didn't need to politicize it. I mean, it's not the kind of movie to do that. I mean, and this is exactly what would happen if Braveheart was released today. Holy crap, they would have a field day with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they would call that alt-right because, they don't like Mel Gibson anyway. So, Hollywood doesn't like Mel Gibson. And, it's just they would have a field day with that because that's Scotland. I mean,
Yeah,
it's and there's these macho guys and these tough guys and stuff. It's like, but that's how they were back then. It was
yeah,
kill or be killed. I
yeah.
mean,
This
that was the
idea,
culture.
this idea that masculinity is a negative, I
I don't
don't
get
think
it.
it's a bad idea. It's a nonsensical idea, and
Yeah.
I honestly believe that ultimately it's a failed idea.
Oh, like I said,
It's
anything like this will implode or hit the wall at some point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just kind of living
I think
through it right now.
they should purposely keep making movies like this just to spite the people who don't like it, you know?
Well, you know something. I mean, I wouldn't have. I own the Northman on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I just watched. It's on Prime. This movie is available on Prime right now. But it's funny because I did a poll on Twitter, and I didn't get an enormous amount of feedback for it. But I think 57% of the people in the poll said they never saw it.
Yeah, well, and again, because it wasn't pushed that way. You know, the movie studios, it wasn't marketed right, like you said. So most people, I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't seen it with you, because
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known what the hell it was.
yeah.
So
I said, "Are you a fan of Robert Eggers' The Northman?" The options were "fuck yeah," "didn't like it," "meh," or "never saw it." 57%
I
said
like the
they
choices.
yeah, yeah. 57% said never saw it. The
Yep.
majority of people never even bothered to, and still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and
so this
again,
is
if
what
you're not into historical movies like this or these types of movies, these battle movies and stuff like that, then you're not going to go to it. How many people saw Kingdom of Heaven? You know, how
yeah.
many people saw any of these? How many people saw The Patriot? The
That's
Patriots,
another. That leads
you
to
know?
another question: do we have, or does the majority of society or America or whatever, do we have the attention span for these types of movies anymore?
I think if you're into those types of movies, I love history. I'm all about history. I
Sure.
like history, mythology, all that kind of stuff. So a movie like this is up my alley. A movie
Right.
like Kingdom of Heaven, like Braveheart,
The
like The
Green Knight,
Patriot, that kind of stuff.
King
I
Arthur.
like yeah, King Arthur, Civil War stuff. I like all those kinds of movies
Right.
because that interests me. But history movies, I don't think are as it's a niche crowd, you know? It's its own niche crowd, like the sci-fi fantasy crowds.
I
It's
think
a
that.
niche
Go ahead.
market, you know?
I think that cinema has become a niche.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cinema has become niche. We're
Yeah.
used to blockbusters.
Nowadays we are. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all people diet on anymore. And kids nowadays, I was told this. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I was told that kids really don't sit down through movies anymore.
My
You
kids
know,
do. I
that
make them sit through
well,
them.
some of them do, but I talked to lots of other parents are like 15, 20 minutes with rare exceptions. Their attention spans
You know what? You
are
know what?
gone.
Colin sat through All Is Lost, and he liked it.
That's a
We
good
did
movie.
oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But we didn't say, "Hey, you have to sit through this." He sat through it and he enjoyed it immensely. So, I mean, my daughter's big into movies. They're into they're curious. So they'll sit through a
But see,
movie, you
here's
know?
the yes, and that's all very good. Don't misunderstand me. But I think that what happens is um, if your kids aren't into gaming, and I don't know if yours are or not,
Oh, yes,
or
my Colin definitely is.
okay, okay, that tends to. I think somehow it affects
Well,
their
I don't know.
attention spans.
I would say I don't know. It depends. It depends on the movie, I think, and it depends on because excuse me, I haven't noticed anything. Like Colin, like I said, he'll sit through a whole movie.
Hmm,
He won't want to like get up and go play on his Switch or whatever.
hmm.
He'll sit through the whole movie. He'll enjoy it. Now if you're talking in terms of like my students, if you try to show them a movie, they'll just sit on their phones the whole time.
Yeah.
They'll barely show any interest in any movie I'm showing, whether it's one they're interested or not, because their faces are in their phones. But with my kids,
Maybe there's not enough of a dopamine hit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with my kids, they're very much into exploring movies. I'll say, "Hey, do you want to watch this, or do you want to check this out, or see if you like it," and stuff like that. Like, I didn't think Colin, honestly, I didn't think Colin was going to like All Is Lost because a lot of people
Because
would
there's
think
no
that's a
dialogue in it.
no, but he liked it. He really
Well, good.
enjoyed it.
Well,
So,
good.
you know,
Keep it
and
up.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like they, you know, Audrey will sit and turn on like movies, and she'll just start watching them. So it's they're into them. It's just I think it's different for different people.
So
You
we've
know,
got what probably is a niche film,
yeah.
because this came out the same year as Thor: Love and Thunder,
Did it?
and yeah,
This was
yeah, it
before
was like
Thor: Love
six,
and
six,
Thunder,
it was
wasn't
like
it?
like 3 or 4 months before that,
Yeah.
and that went on to make decent amount of money, seven
It
hundred million
wasn't
or
that
something.
good though.
Yeah,
Of
I
all
know,
the
but I mean, lots of people are lining up to see Thor, but no
yeah.
one will go see it, which is about a Viking,
Yeah, I
the
know.
god of thunder, but it's a
Yeah.
comedy. It's a
Yeah.
comedy, so that's what people have the attention span for. Whereas this,
Mhm.
which probably leans a lot more towards cinema,
Yeah.
is
Again,
not
this
something
is
that catches on. And
again,
I just showed you a poll that said, almost 60% of the people still haven't seen it.
yeah, but like I said, this movie, this is for the Braveheart crowd. This
Yeah,
is for the
for adults.
Patriot crowd. For the what's that?
It's for adults.
Yeah, yeah, and people who are interested in this kind of thing. I find this kind of stuff awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's so for people who are into that, yeah,
I guess that
so
means you're all right. We're all right.
oh no. Oh
We're all
no.
right. This is it. We're
Yeah.
all right, buddy.
Yeah, it's the movies from the '80s that made us that way. All the Arnold
Yeah, yeah.
Schwarzenegger movies.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I saw somebody the other day, and they said this is the greatest. It was like a serious movie critic, and I guess he was having a bit of a laugh, but he said
Mhm.
these are the greatest 46 seconds in all of film, or a minute and 40, or a minute or something. And it was Schwarzenegger coming off the boat in Commando, gearing
Yeah.
up. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's looking to see if anybody, and then he starts to zip up all his shit. And I'm like, it's the steel drums at the end that make it
Ye
ding, 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 ding,
yeah.
ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding. And you're like, fuck yeah, Arnold.
Yeah.
So
The whole
between that,
yeah.
growing up on that diet of like All in the Family and the Jeffersons, and yeah, we're
Yeah, I
just
think
used to
I
some
think
crash
we're
shit.
I think we're a little more hardened, with growing up with that stuff, and it's kinda good that we did, and
Oh
that
yeah,
this is
absolutely, absolutely.
but and again, like, I don't know. I just again have no real argument against all this nonsense because that's what it is. When it comes down to it, like all this alt-right crap and all this, it's all nonsense.
Yeah,
And it's a shame that again, it's a shame they politicized this movie because it shouldn't have been at all.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know what Egger's political stance is on anything, and I don't care. Like, just give me a good movie, I
yeah. It's
mean,
it's it's bullshit, and yeah, it's not supposed to be. eh, eh, You know, I think the best solution one is to just spend your money on it.
yeah,
Two,
if
and
you're
just to
into that, yeah.
laugh at these weirdos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
laugh at these weirdos. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not the typical conversation that we have where we go through the whole movie, and maybe
No, it's
maybe we
alright.
need to change up the format a little bit about these things. But this was an interesting. It's a really good movie that has had a lot of things working against it, um,
Yeah,
and it's
but
still. Go
on
ahead.
the positive side, it's got a fantastic cast.
Yeah.
Probably, I would say this is probably some of the best work I've seen from Nicole Kidman in a long
Oh,
time,
yeah, that was
in a
something I wanted
long
to get
time.
into. She is the Gertrude parallel,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
marries her dead husband's brother. But whereas Gertrude in Hamlet comes off as just sort of a naive buffoon,
She was an unwitting pawn, kind of.
yeah,
This
she
one's
just,
in on it. This
yeah,
one, Nicole
she's
Kidman's in
evil.
on it.
But in looking at it even today, we saw that she hated Ethan Hawke
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she was a slave that he just
Mhm.
climbed on top of, and she got pregnant, so he made her his
Yeah,
queen.
so she had a reason to
She kind of
hate
had
him.
a rationale. Yeah, I mean, the Ethan Hawke that you think is this noble king,
Yeah.
was kind of just a
Most
product
of
of
those
his
guys
time.
weren't. Most of
Yeah.
those guys were
Oh
straight
yeah.
up bastards. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how it was.
Oh yeah.
That's I mean, it look at again, look at Braveheart when the English invoked that whole first night nonsense
Imanate, yeah.
with the Scots, you know. But this was, I think, I think this was one of Nicole Kidman's best movies, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen much from her recently.
Yeah.
But I've never, and she's not like one of those actresses. I guess I always kind of took her for granted because I never really thought much of her performances. But in this one, she was awesome.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
she's plays somebody who's just scrabbling to hold on.
yeah, yeah,
She's
yeah.
scrabbling to hold on to what she has, whether it's Ethan Hawke, whether it's Clay Bangs, who plays the
Is that how you
brother.
pronounce his name? Clay?
Yeah, yeah, it's Danish name.
Oh, is he
But
Danish?
yeah,
Okay.
he's Danish. And if you get a chance, watch Netflix's Dracula. He plays Dracula.
It's funny. I thought he was Kieran Hines at first because he kind
Yeah,
of looks like Kieran
well,
Hines.
he's probably about 20 years younger now, but
Yeah.
um, he plays Dracula in a 3-episode series, and the
Okay.
second episode is an entire Demeter episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not
Okay.
bad. He does a pretty damn decent job. But what were we talking about? Oh yeah, so she marries her brother, and then when she sees that the husband is about to be deposed, she even tries to connect with her son, like sexually.
Yeah, that's gross.
And then
yeah.
at the end, like he stabs her in the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and she thanks him.
Yeah.
I think there's a part of her that understood like how twisted she had become.
Yeah.
And she just wants to die.
Yeah.
She's tired of just trying to hold on. It really is a fantastic performance from her.
Yeah.
I really like this Anya Taylor-Joy more and more.
I haven't seen her in a lot, so I still
She
can't.
was in his first movie, The Witch.
Yeah, I know. I know she's been in. Was she the one in
The
No,
Queen's
she wasn't.
Gambit. She was in The Queen's Gambit.
Yes, that's the show I saw her in. Yeah,
she was in that. She was in The Menu with Ralph Fiennes, and she's gone line for line with Ralph Fiennes.
Okay.
Fantastic. Was one of the best horror movies last year. We covered it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's really good. Alexander Skarsgård, I really like him. Like I said, I've been following him for a long time.
And again, he's the one. Alexander Skarsgård is the one I'm least familiar with.
Okay.
Bill is the one that was in John Wick, and is that Peter? Which is Pennywise? Is that Bill or Peter?
That's Bill.
Okay.
Bill.
And Peter Skarsgård, I've seen him in, I forget what I've seen.
There are too many Skarsgård. Like I can barely
keep
his
up. Sons. It's all Stellan's kids.
They're all good.
Yeah.
And Bill Skarsgård is going to be Nosferatu.
Oh, is he?
It's already been wrapped up. They're already in post-production.
We're seeing that if it comes out around here.
Yeah. We got to do the Demeter if it shows up around.
Yes, in August. Yeah, that's coming out.
We'll do the Demeter if it comes out around here, because all you're getting now is Fast X 30 times a day, and was it The Little Mermaid, and all this shit, and
it's just but this is the thing. It's I don't know.
We need a like a. I mean, I wish the Ventnor twin was doing it, but I guess they're just trying to.
They do older, like they're doing Jaws. They did The Mummy. Okay. They do, they're going to be, and I think.
Are they doing Fathom events?
I think they are too. I think the Tilton Square one still is. I don't know if Regal is or not, but
I don't see them doing it much. No, I mean,
I have to look it up. I haven't been up on Fathom events too much.
I've been on Fandango, and it's just been nothing but blockbusters.
Yeah.
And then the next Friday, it's the next blockbuster.
It's quick money.
It's a steady diet of crap, though. I mean, it's like eating McDonald's every day.
I know, but that's why the studios are doing it.
They Fast X is already on video on demand. It's already
on video really? On demand.
It's already on. Yeah. But you're seeing what they're doing. Like people are staying. Maybe we'll make more money there than we will in the theater.
Yeah. I mean, although I would like to check out Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
I heard it's pretty good.
Into the Spider-Verse is an awesome movie.
It's a good movie. I own it on Blu-ray. I got it right over
here. Yeah. But again, it's mainstream, blockbuster stuff. But I don't know. But like I said, that's where the money is. That's where you'll get you'll get these little art house, what they call art house indie films, that'll come out for a week and then be awesome, but nobody will know. I
I
mean,
saw Ari Aster's Beau is Afraid with Joaquin Phoenix. It was here for 1 week. 1 week. And I saw it on the Thursday before it dropped because the next Friday it was gone. And I caught a Thursday
well,
matinee, and it was 3 hours long. Like nobody has
yeah,
the attention span. That's another thing. These movies tend to be long.
well, look at Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. Here we are
Yeah,
talking about Hamlet.
yeah,
It's 4 hours long. It is the best Shakespeare adaptation, the best adaptation of Hamlet that I've ever seen.
yeah.
And I don't even remember it being in the theater. I remember seeing the preview for it.
Hmm.
It came out in 96. I remember seeing the preview for it, but it wasn't around here because, again, like Zissou, they're not going to show those kind of movies around here because
I
they
want to see
think,
that movie Nefarious with Sean Patrick Flannery.
oh, the young Indiana Jones guy.
Yeah, and from the Boondock Saints.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
He's done a possession movie that is supposed to be fucking off the hook. It's
He
a
directed it.
faith-based. No, he's starring in it.
Oh, okay.
It's a faith-based possession movie,
Huh.
and it is supposed to be amazing. And it's already been released. It didn't come here at all. I had to go to Delaware if I wanted to see it. Same with when Denzel dropped that Macbeth. Remember we wanted to go see it?
Yeah.
Nope.
I still want to check that out.
You got to get Apple TV. No physical media release.
There's no DVD of it?
No physical media release. Apple TV. They're controlling all the. You might be able to find a Blu-ray on demand from eBay. There are certain eBay sellers that
That's
will
weird.
sell it. Yeah. Well, Netflix
Hmm.
doesn't really do any of their physical media. Doesn't do any physical media. Any of their series. Like I was very lucky to get those Daredevils.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
any of that
Yeah.
shit though.
I know. It's
So,
crazy.
I mean, we come to the part, I think, because we've been going a little over an hour, just having a general sort of go at it, where let's rate the movie. And
Okay.
this channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So you got 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather clean a stranger's dirty toilet than watch this movie again. All the way to 5. This is cinema. This is the entire reason that I watch movies in the first place, so on and so forth. What would you rate Robert Eggers' The Northman?
Okay, I was thinking about this a lot. I think I would rate it. I would give it 4
Okay.
because for me, and this is just me personally, what the reason why I'm giving it 4, and again, it's a fantastically made movie, great cinematography, the history, acting, all that stuff is great. What did it for me? I still think the ending is a little goofy where they're fighting naked in the volcano.
On the volcano, yeah.
I thought then I'm thinking to myself, well, is that creative license or is that the real Amleth story? And then the other thing was, and it just was the guy with no nose, it just unintentionally elicited giggles from me the entire time.
I remember.
I mean, he looked like a gorilla, and it was just like
there's a scene I just saw the other day when I watched it just now, where he comes back and he sees him for the first time. Amleth sees him and recognizes him. He doesn't recognize Amleth, obviously, but he recognizes him because he's missing a fucking nose. And he hocks a fucking boogie out of his fucking nose. He's got no nose, and he just hocks a fucking and just the fucking snot just flies out on these slams, and you're like, "Fuck, man!"
Was this a deleted scene?
No, it was in the movie.
I don't remember that.
Fucking gross.
But other than that, the movie's and the movie's great. I mean, that is, and I like that other scene where he's fighting that tomb guardian, that skeleton thing.
Yeah.
And when he cut the head off and stuck it in his butt, that was actually they did that when they severed the head. That was a sign of disrespect. That this is how you're going to look in the afterlife, kind of thing.
Okay. And I like in that scene where they did that. and then when it was over, you find out that he hadn't even moved.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
still clutching the sword like that was,
It
whether
was
that
a
was some sort of psychedelic experience or
yeah, some
a
kind of
spiritual experience,
supernatural.
yeah,
Yeah,
supernatural experience.
that was
Um,
cool. Yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah.
fucking cool. I liked Willem Dafoe, who
Wait, he
instant
was. Oh, I forgot he was in
he was
that.
the jester. He was the jester and the
Yeah,
mystic, and he picked up right away. I watched it today. That Nicole Kidman was a fucking hoe. He was
yeah.
trying to tell
I totally
Ethan Hawke.
forgot he was in
Hawke
that.
just wasn't hearing it. He wouldn't
Yeah,
listen to him.
yeah.
And that one scene where they go to see the other mystic, and he's got Willem Dafoe's head,
Oh, yeah.
and they're like, he cut out his eyes, cut out his tongue, cut off his
Mhm.
ears. And he
Yeah,
still uses the head, and Willem Dafoe comes back for that brief scene to
yeah,
speak to
yeah.
adult Amleth. For me, I would go with 4.5.
Okay.
4.5. We don't get many sword and sorcery type movies anymore. They
Mm-mm.
were very
No.
prevalent in the 80s,
Mhm.
with Legend and like Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger and
yeah,
Conan,
yeah,
The Sword and the Sorcerer with Lee Horsley and all those movies,
yeah.
Dragonheart with Dennis Quaid and Sean Connery. But this was one that you could see. It didn't have any real CGI. There's no CGI to
Oh,
speak of.
no, not at all. No.
It was completely grounded.
Yeah.
Like you said, extraordinarily well researched.
Mhm.
Great cast, and you know me,
Yeah,
I love grounded, dark things.
yeah.
And this was definitely that. I loved Anya Taylor Joy taking the period blood and slapping that guy in the face with it when he
Oh,
tries to rape her. And he's like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
what the
yeah.
fuck?" And that's the one thing that fucking
Yeah,
drives him away, and then he starts slitting throats to
yeah.
make this guy come out. And then she
Mhm.
finally grabs her, and she's just like, "I see you finally can stand up to a woman's blood now, you fucking fuck." I thought it was great, a great revenge story. I love the fight. I love the fight on the volcano, because why not? Why not? This movie just went
At
for it.
that point, yeah, I guess.
This
I
movie
just
just
thought it
fucking
was
went for
like
it.
I thought it kinda just took away, like, "Oh, yeah, here you have this," and then, like, that's their last fight is
Well,
naked guys in the
that was
volcano?
that he would fight in hell. That they would
Oh, okay, that's
and
right. Yeah,
again,
yeah, yeah.
the thing that I liked most about it was that nobody was in charge of their own fate.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
has that ability. He has that thing where he can be selfish and just leave
Mhm.
with her, but he realizes that his children, she's pregnant, his children are never going to be safe, and it's not even a question. He
Oh,
just
yeah.
tells her, "I gotta go," and he jumps over the fucking boat. And
Yeah.
like, you never see that in films today. The hero would find a way to have it both ways.
Yeah, yeah.
And his way of having it both ways is understanding that his children are going to, this woman is going to survive. She's going to give birth to his two children, and that's how he's going to win.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
nowadays, there would be some workaround, and they'd find a way to, kill the guy, and then he gets the woman and the kids. And I really
Mhm.
like that old respect to the old philosophies that
Again, this is
you roll with the punches.
yeah, and again, it's they're trying to be accurate. I
Yeah,
mean, they didn't they didn't do Braveheart, they didn't do William Wallace any favors. I mean, that's what actually happened to him. He was drawn and quartered, he was
yeah,
disemboweled and had his head cut off and all that.
yeah,
And
and
that's what
placed at the four corners of the fucking country.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
In,
I mean,
in a
but
modern retelling, he would, kill, and kill Longshanks, and but
yeah, yeah.
nowadays, yeah, I mean, yeah,
I mean,
that's what
that's
I
the
appreciate
thing.
most. It's not a modern
Yeah,
movie.
and this does, I think, but that also does, even if it ends with his death, it still follows the hero's journey, you know?
In a
Um,
way, in a way,
yeah, yeah,
in a
yeah,
way. Because he
yeah.
doesn't get to go home.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't
He
get to
doesn't.
go home. He doesn't make it back. The
No.
hero's journey would have been, he gets to leave with the woman
Yeah,
and the kid. He gets to slay his
yeah,
father's killer, and we all live. The hero's journey kind
which
of lives happily ever after.
yeah,
That's
so
what it kind
and
of.
this and I like that this diverges from that too. I
Yeah,
mean, that
like
notion.
Hamlet. That's what
Yeah, yeah,
Hamlet dies in the end.
yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, I mean, Hamlet
It's not a
was
warrior's tale. It's not a
I know,
Viking's
Hamlet
tale, you
also
know.
made bad choices, but,
Yeah, or didn't
um,
make any.
yeah,
He
yeah, that's
struggled to
true.
make any decisions.
Exactly,
That was part of Hamlet's problems.
he's the great procrastinator, and,
Yeah, yeah, he just talks about it all the time. You
yeah,
know,
and then
really not think on it, you know?
when he wants to do something, he kills the wrong guy.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
So, yeah,
Although I have to say, I'm glad Polonius gets bumped off because Polonius is a little weasel anyway, so it's no big loss. But yes, when Hamlet finally decides to do something, it's the wrong guy.
yeah, it's the wrong
But
guy. Yeah.
yeah, but that's
So, I mean, is there anything else you wanted to any points you wanted to get into that we missed?
no, I think like I said, it's definitely compared to like Braveheart and the Patriot and things like that. I think it's definitely that much more graphic,
Yeah,
but it's accurate.
yeah,
Okay. I mean, I don't think it's Eggers having like you know, this having to satiate some kind of bloodlust or something, doing all
no,
that stuff.
no,
It's accurate. I mean, it's a fine movie, and I think, again, it's gonna get popular through its
yeah,
cult status, through the DVDs and all that kind of stuff, and word of mouth and things like that.
yeah. I think so too, and I think that just making it accessible on Prime. So
Yeah.
now if you've got a Prime membership, you can just watch
Yeah.
it for free.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah,
Yep.
and sometimes the coolest things are the things that remain small.
Exactly.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a big thing.
No.
And now, it's obvious that Eggers, is continuing to make films. Nosferatu is on its way, probably next year.
That'll be cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and that'll be his fourth movie. So, I mean,
Okay.
he continues to make cinema. He
If
continues to
as
make
long as
cinema.
he doesn't as long as he doesn't and he remains an indie director, and as long as he remains in control, like one of the rare directors nowadays who's still in full control is Quentin Tarantino. I mean, he's still in full control. He's still considered independent um, enough, and he can still basically do whatever he wants. So without studio interference. So if Eggers is still allowed to do that in the next couple of years, then that's good. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Well, you've got people like him. You've got people like Brandon Cronenberg. You've got people like Ari Aster. I think
Mhm.
these people are kind of like the next generation
But then,
up and coming directors, and
some of
they're
those,
doing smaller,
yeah.
more important work.
But I think some of those guys too might not get taken seriously by the big studios because they specialize in horror.
I
And
think I think that they see the mess that
yeah.
the big blockbuster brings with it, and I
Hmm.
think they want to stay as far away from that as possible.
Well, because and if you look at the horror market, what is it? Jason, Leatherface. How many of these damn movies do we need? You don't get a good like. That's why I want to see the last voyage of the Demeter, but I'm nervous.
Mm.
Like that. It again. It'll probably be in this kind of situation, the Northman situation, or even the Nosferatu. Like it's
I put more money on the Nosferatu than I would the Demeter.
yeah, but I'm just saying it's not Leatherface. It's not Michael Myers. It's not this horseshit that
I
we've
hate to
gotten.
say it, but
Yeah.
that's the horror. That's the horror community.
Yeah.
A
I
lot
know.
of people they want it dumb, and
Yeah.
the dumber the better.
Yeah. And
You
that's
know,
that's why those guys, like I said, they're not taken seriously because the studios have that mindset too. We
but
need dumb schlock, you
yeah,
know.
at this point, I think those three are in a different category, and they're going for smaller. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
And they should stick
if
with
you
that.
see Infinity Pool, I mean, this is Cronenberg. This is
Mhm.
Brandon Cronenberg,
Okay.
David Cronenberg's son. This is
Okay.
serious body horror.
Okay.
It's serious fucking body horror. Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth, um, but
Mhm.
it doesn't cost a lot of money.
And
It's
again, so these guys should stick with the small stuff because that's
I
what
think so.
works,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
correct.
Yeah.
All right. Do you got anything you need to plug? Any upcoming
Nope.
productions or anything like that? Nothing
No,
coming up?
no, not right now. No.
Okay. This channel will be back tomorrow, and I will be covering Extraction, which is the Chris Hemsworth action film from 2021. And I'm going to be covering that only because did you see Extraction?
No.
Oh, you got to see it. It's fucking
Okay.
great. It's like Hemsworth's John Wick.
Oh, okay.
And now on Friday, Extraction 2 is coming. So I'm going to be covering that. I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review on Friday because you and I think we have tentative plans on Friday to go grab some wings or something. But I'm going to do an early spoiler-free review of Extraction on Friday. So Tuesday's Extraction, Friday's Extraction 2. And then on Thursday, in between that, I've got an interview with Odin from OMB Reviews, who's a member of Geeks and Gamers, and Friday Night Tights. Nice. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That's going to be cool. And it's going to be a busy week. So we will come back next week after we make another selection for, Summer of Sci-Fi Fantasy, see what the next one's going to be. My thanks to the Ryan Daly for stopping in and having this conversation.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. And we'll see you in the next video. All right.
All right.
Take care.
See you.